exciting that the second that you're on the vlog, I'm in a Koenigsegg. We've flown all the way to England for Goodwood Festival of Speed, and Tim said, hey, come over and drive some of my cars. So how am I gonna turn that down? We just drove the SF90XX for the first time ever. I was blown away. The car is so good looking. We only got maybe 20-30% of the performance because it's in break-in, and already the car is insane. But personally, I'm very curious to see the 12 Cilindri. I would say 12 Cilindri, but SHMEE laughed at me when I said that. Having owned an 812 in the past, I'm very curious to see the modern version of the 812, what it's actually like. We still have that 6.5 liter naturally aspirated V12. I'm so glad they kept it in this car, now with over 800 horsepower. Some people don't love the design language of this car because of that black stripe, which is reminiscent of Daytonas of the past. But honestly, in person, it actually looks really, really nice. This lineup of 3 Ferraris is actually insane. The Puro Sangue, the 12 Cilindri, and the SF90XX. And of course, all of SHMEE's other gorgeous cars. But we are taking a bunch of these to Goodwood Festival of Speed on a little rally, meeting up with some Koenigsegg's later in the evening. Let's head out in the car. What a good looking car. That thing is ridiculous. Here we go, behind the wheel of the 12 Cilindri. This interior is pretty crazy. How is this for a convoy? The SF90XX followed by the 4GT with me in the 12 Cilindri. This is a great day already. I do have to give a huge shout out to Tim, SHMEE150, for always being so awesome with filming, with supplying cars. I mean, he's like, come down, drive whatever. Obviously, the opportunity to drive an SF90XX doesn't come every day, so it's pretty awesome. And then to be able to do a 3-hour rally and a whole bunch of priceless supercars is pretty darn awesome. Goodwood Festival of Speed, I'm so excited for it. Like Monterey Car Week, it's my favorite week of the year. They're almost tied, honestly. I think about that often. Do I like Goodwood or Monterey Car Week more? And I honestly can't decide. Look at these cars compared to the Prius. They actually look like spaceships. Listen to this V12. It has more induction noise than the 812 Superfast. It almost has kind of a 599 GTO sound to the intake. Oh, that is unbelievable. Thank you, Ferrari, for keeping the V12. That wing is so freaking aggressive, it's hard to believe that is an OEM part from Ferrari. I love it. Ferrari's going crazy. As we're putting along in traffic, I figured I'd talk about some initial impressions with the car. The sound is actually more different than I would expect for it to be a revised version of the same V12. We've essentially had the same V12, just revised over and over again since the early 2000s with the Ferrari Enzo. This is kind of the pushing the limits of that 6.5 liter naturally aspirated V12 with 818 horsepower. Pretty ridiculous out of a naturally aspirated car. It's more comfortable than the 812, not by a significant margin, but it definitely feels like it soaks up bumps a little bit more. The rear axle steering is really tricky, actually. The rear wheels can turn independently from the front wheels, but each of the individual rear wheels can turn independently from one another. We also have ABS Evo, which is a new, basically, traction control management system under braking that was developed for the 296 GTB, which measures the road, scans all 4 corners for maximum grip, and allows for better braking. Visibility is great out of this car. It almost feels more similar to a Lusso than the 812 just because of the way the front hood looks. You've got a totally different view out over the hood. I will say I kind of miss some of the analog gauges of the 812. I miss that analog tachometer. And I'm not sure if having as many screens as possible is really what you want in a supercar. It is very nice, and this would be an awesome daily driver, but I'm curious in a couple years, is this gonna look super dated with all these screens? Something about this just doesn't look like a supercar interior to me. Now, don't get me wrong, the graphics for the instrument cluster are gorgeous, but nothing beats that analog center-mounted yellow tachometer. I gotta ask Tim what this is, but the car makes the strangest noise when you just really lightly touch the brakes. These two cars complement each other so well, and in many respects, they're honestly very similar. God, what a sick looking car. Look at this, Tim causing absolute chaos at the gas station. All right, now as cool as all of the supercars are, the rarest car of the bunch is this one-of-one Ford Transit van that Brad's driving. This thing's pretty crazy, I'm not gonna lie.
Isn't this the coolest thing here?
I thought it was a wrap.
No.
But it's actual paint.
Open the door.
Custom seats.
Everything is one-of-one, pink stitching, pink stitching.
You're vibing in here, huh?
Oh yeah, sorry, copyright. Shut that off. I forget YouTube.
This is pretty cool.
This is the best thing here. Forget your SF90XX, forget your Dodge Cylindric, forget your Ford GT.
I actually do really like the rear end of the 12 Cylindri. The exhaust setup's kind of interesting though. We've got this massive exhaust surround and then 2 tips inside of that. Kind of looks interesting. Oh man. That sounds insane. So we spent a decent amount of time behind the wheel of the 12 Cylindri now, or the Dodici Cilindri as SHMEE would say, and the proper Italian pronunciation. We spent a lot of time in traffic, so I want to comment on how it is.
After the tunnel, then we take the exit after the tunnel. So after, like, straight out the other side, we exit right now.
All right, so SHMEE just said there's a tunnel up ahead, which is a excellent excuse to listen to that V12 and all of these supercars at once. As a daily driver, this car does ride more comfortably than the 812 Superfast. It also is more nimble and easy to drive around at low speeds because of the rear axle steering calibration. The steering is nice and light, the visibility is fantastic. It sounds similar, but has a little bit more throaty induction noise, kind of like an F12 TDF when you're at the lower RPMs, but then it sounds pretty similar to the 812 at the upper RPM range. I mean, this thing pulls like a freight train. Top speed, 211 miles an hour. Oh, so cool convoying with all of these cars. This thing is an absolute pleasure to drive. We've been stuck in traffic. We've got about a 3-hour drive to Goodwood Festival of Speed. And it's practically been a Rolls Royce. I mean, not literally, but all right, we got a 992.2 Porsche behind us. It's crazy the level of commotion these cars cause at the gas stations. Oh boy, here we go. There's a crazy tunnel up ahead. So time to put the windows down so you can listen to this car at full throttle in the tunnel. All right, ready? Absolutely insane. The gear ratios are a bit shorter than the 812 Superfast. We also have an extra gear, 8 speeds instead of 7. It's a little bit hard to tell the acceleration difference. I owned the 812 Superfast for a couple years, but this was back in 2019 to 2021, so it's been some time. Beautiful Ford GT since I've last driven one. Feels similar in terms of speed, but I really want to get one of these out onto a circuit or onto some twisty roads, particularly left-hand drive on the right side of the road, so I can really put it through its paces and see what the handling element of this car is all about. But man, it's an absolute pleasure to drive long distances. That's what this car is so darn good at. Now, I will say this car is very wide, and British countryside roads are made for children in toy Hot Wheels vehicles. These are not wide enough for normal cars. And driving a right-hand drive $500,000 car on a tight, narrow street like this, oh my God, is extraordinarily nerve-wracking. Wait, person, please. All right, excellent. Every time you pass someone, it's like a sigh of relief. I have to say, the duality of this car is unbelievably impressive. While it's super comfortable and easy to cruise around town, when you flick it into race mode and you start picking up the pace, the steering sharpens up, the suspension handles the bump so well. It's not jarring in any way, shape, or form, but it has an extremely limited amount of body roll, particularly for a GT car. It's got a 3/4 of an inch shorter wheelbase than the 812 Superfast, allowing it to be a little bit more nimble, decreasing that turning radius, and then with that active rear axle steering, it just makes it much, much lighter on its feet. Some more differences, we've got new pistons in that 6.5 liter V12 as compared to the 812. We also have equal length headers, new tuning, and extra gear. And the result is one hell of an awesome car. Obviously, looks are subjective, but from a driving experience standpoint, I would say this is better than the 812 Superfast in pretty much every conceivable aspect. I think if we could put this drivetrain and experience inside of an 812 body and interior, that would be money. Pulling up to the Koenigsegg campsite now, and there are some cool cars here. We got the F12 TDF, all of these camper vans. So this is Goodwood in a nutshell. We drove the SF90XX, then drove the 12 Cylindri for 3 hours, and now we found ourselves in a 296 on a Koenigsegg rally on the way to dinner. We got Zach up there in the green CCX. For the people who think the 296 sounds bad, please listen to that clip again with headphones. Casual P1 pulling in behind. Absolutely stunning P1 pulling up. Look who it is.
Hello, dude.
Hello.
How you doing? We good?
It's very fitting that the second that you're on the vlog, I'm in a Koenigsegg.
You booted me out of the car.
So we're in the CCR right now.
CCR. I believe it's chassis. Is it the 28 or 38?
These are the most comfortable sport seats I've ever been in. It feels like I'm sitting on a luxurious leather couch.
Yeah, it's lovely.
All right, so you said push the clutch in.
Push the clutch in all the way. That's it. Now
That's
try and get
firm.
it into first. Bearing in mind, neutral is middle. Try and get it into first. Nope, that's third. That's first. Then try and get it into second. That's yeah. It's really hard. Yeah.
Okay.
It's something different.
That reminds me of the Ford GT video I made. How cool is the spec on this P1? So at first glance, it looks black, but it is black with blue exposed carbon fiber accents in the bumper, the splitter, and then down on the door. Even up here, that is so cool. It's subtle, but really menacing. The lineup here is absolutely crazy. So starting with the P1, moving on to the CCR that Zach was driving. One of my favorite cars I've reviewed, the GT3 RS 4.0. We've got another GT3 RS, a nice Performante, the Dodici Cylindri, which we drove over in. This is just a different spec. Beautiful F12 TDF. That color is stunning. Nice white Agera. And then check this out. Gray Jesko. Full of supercars and hypercars. All of the videographers are over by the Jesko. The wing on the Jesko attack is just ridiculous. Look at that. All right, time to grab some dinner. As if one Jesko attack wasn't enough, a second one just pulled up. Sounds so mean. Well, what a brilliant way to end the night. Agera leaving dinner. Such a good looking car. Woo!